Have you ever sat in the quiet of your room, replaying a moment with someone and wondering why it hurt more than it should have? Why a simple comment felt like a bruise you couldn't see, or why you walked away feeling small, confused, or strangely guilty for something you never meant to do? You tell yourself it's nothing, you're overthinking, you're too sensitive. But a tiny voice in the back of your mind whispers that something about this pattern feels familiar, almost like a story you've lived before. Maybe it's with a partner, maybe a friend, maybe even a family member. Someone who can make you feel warm and understood in one moment and then hollowed out in the next. Someone whose approval feels like sunlight but whose disappointment feels like a storm. You try harder, give more, explain more, hoping that if you can just get everything right, the connection will stop hurting. You hope the good parts will outweigh the bad. You hope they'll see your intentions, your effort, your heart. But beneath all of that hope is a deeper question you rarely say out loud. Why do you stay? What keeps you holding on to someone who drains you, confuses you, or quietly reshapes the way you see yourself? This is where the truth begins. Not with blame, not with judgment, but with a gentle acknowledgement that something inside you is asking to be understood. Toxic relationships aren't always loud or dramatic. Sometimes they slip in quietly, disguising themselves as love, loyalty, or responsibility. Sometimes they feel like home in a way that unsettles you. And today, as you listen, you might finally see the unseen threads that have been pulling at your heart all along. And you deserve to understand why you've carried this weight. Toxic relationships don't just sit on the surface of your life. They weave themselves into the quiet spaces inside you, shaping the way you think, respond, and hope. You don't simply deal with a toxic relationship. You feel it, like a presence that follows you even when the other person isn't around. It becomes almost like a storm that lives under your skin, sometimes calm, sometimes unpredictable, always influencing your emotional weather. And you start adjusting to it the way people adjust to bad climates, slowly, silently, without even noticing what you're losing along the way. A toxic relationship is not defined by one big moment. It's defined by patterns. Patterns that start small, almost invisible. A slight shift in tone that makes you second-guess yourself. A dismissive comment that lingers in your mind longer than it should. A warm moment that makes you believe things are finally getting better, followed by coldness that leaves you scrambling to figure out what you did wrong. You begin living in reaction mode, constantly scanning the emotional air around you like someone checking for storms. But here, where the truth gets deeper, toxic relationships feel powerful because they attach themselves to something inside you that already longs for connection. They latch onto your hope, your empathy, your loyalty, and they use those qualities to keep the cycle alive. The relationship becomes like an unpredictable mirror. Some days it reflects your brightest parts, making you feel valued. Other days it reflects your insecurities, making you feel small, confused, or unworthy. And because you've tasted the warmth, you keep searching for it, even when the cold becomes the norm. Inside you, the impact feels like a tug-of-war between your logic and your heart. Part of you knows something is wrong. You sense the imbalance, the inconsistency, the emotional weight. Yet another part of you clings to the moments that felt good, the glimpses of love or kindness that keep you invested. You tell yourself the person doesn't mean to hurt you. You tell yourself you're overreacting. You tell yourself things will change once the timing is right or once you become better, calmer, or more understanding. This is how the psychology of toxic relationships works. It convinces you that the problem is you, not the dynamic. It teaches you to carry emotional responsibility that doesn't belong to you. It blurs the line between care and sacrifice until you can't tell where your needs disappeared. And slowly, without realizing it, you begin to abandon pieces of yourself just to keep the peace. But recognizing this isn't a failure, it's an awakening. And right now, something in you is beginning to recognize the emotional fingerprints of toxicity, not to blame yourself, but to understand the invisible knots that have been tightening around your heart for far too long. Toxic relationships rarely begin out of nowhere. They often have roots that stretch back into the earliest chapters of your life, sometimes so early that you barely remember them, yet they shape your understanding of love, trust, and safety. Think for a moment. As a child, did you sometimes feel unseen, unheard, or unsure whether your feelings mattered? Maybe your emotions were dismissed, your needs minimized, or affection only appeared on terms set by someone else. These experiences leave impressions on your heart that quietly follow you into adulthood, shaping what you unconsciously seek and tolerate. In those early years, your mind is like soft clay, molding itself around the behavior of the people you depend on most. If love came with conditions, if smiles appeared only when you performed, obeyed, or suppressed your discomfort, you learned that your value depended on compliance, not authenticity. You absorbed lessons without realizing it, that expressing needs might be risky, that asking for care could provoke frustration, or that conflict is dangerous. In essence, your emotional compass was quietly redirected, teaching you to adapt for survival, even if it meant bending or hiding parts of yourself. Sometimes the roots of toxic patterns are subtler. Perhaps a parent or caregiver was inconsistent, warm and attentive one moment, distant or critical the next. These swings teach your heart to chase approval and stability, even if it comes in unpredictable doses. You learn to interpret the slightest shift in tone, a pause, a look, or a sigh as an early warning signal. This becomes a survival skill, but it also quietly programs you to tolerate emotional instability later in life, to hope for love in forms that leave you exhausted or uncertain. Other times, you might have witnessed relationships around you, friendships, family dynamics, or romantic connections, where respect and care were entangled with manipulation, control, or subtle cruelty. You might not have understood it as a child, but the blueprint formed. You internalized the belief that love could hurt, that closeness could bring pain, and that you must endure discomfort to preserve connection. This imprint isn't a flaw in you. It's a reflection of the environment you grew up in and the emotional survival strategies you were forced to adopt. Even experiences of neglect, even the quiet absence of care, teach your mind a pattern, that your feelings are secondary and that to receive attention, you must perform, adapt, or tolerate. You may have learned to suppress anger, hide disappointment, or avoid vulnerability because you feared rejection, shame, or punishment. Over time, these lessons became invisible rules guiding your interactions with everyone: friends, partners, coworkers, and even strangers. The messages are subtle but powerful. Your needs are optional. Other people's comfort is priority. Love is conditional. As you grew, these internalized lessons didn't vanish. They evolved. They shaped the way you evaluated people, interpreted behavior, and measured intimacy. Your early experiences seeded a pattern where you unconsciously seek relationships that replay familiar dynamics, even when they hurt. You may gravitate toward partners who mirror past inconsistencies or power imbalances because it feels familiar, even if it's uncomfortable. The paradox is that what feels unsafe is often recognized, on some level, as home, because your heart learned that survival and love were intertwined in these very patterns. Understanding the origin of toxic relationships is not about blaming your parents, caregivers, or your past. It's about recognizing the invisible threads woven into your emotional landscape long before you knew what love or respect should feel like. It's about seeing how your heart learned early lessons in protection, adaptation, and endurance, which later became patterns you carry in adult connections. And as you reflect, you may notice a gentle truth emerging. These roots explain your patterns, but they do not define your future. Awareness of origin is the first step toward change. It's the beginning of reclaiming the freedom to feel fully, express openly, and choose connections that honor you rather than deplete you. By now, you might recognize that the patterns of toxic relationships are not your fault. They are echoes of survival strategies formed long ago. And like any survival strategy, they take a form, a mask you wear to navigate a world that once felt unsafe. This mask is clever. It protects you. It smooths conflicts before they escalate, anticipates needs before they're spoken, and hides pain behind a smile or a nod. It is the version of you that others see as calm, agreeable, or strong. And yet beneath the surface, the mask can feel heavy, restrictive, and unrecognizable. Think about the ways you show up in relationships. Do you find yourself apologizing often, even when you haven't done anything wrong? Do you hold back thoughts, avoid confrontation, or minimize your feelings so others remain comfortable? This is your mask at work, a shield designed to protect you from rejection, anger, or abandonment. It's the part of you that learned, if I adapt, I survive. If I conform, I am safe. And for many years, it works. On the outside, you appear capable, caring, or resilient. People may even admire your composure, but the mask demands a hidden price: your authenticity. This survival mechanism is subtle. It doesn't always feel like armor. Sometimes it feels like loyalty, love, or devotion. Sometimes it feels like patience or understanding. You tell yourself, I'm just being kind, I'm just being reasonable. And in the short term, that kindness may create harmony. It may prevent conflict. It may allow you to navigate someone else's unpredictability. Yet over time, the mask isolates you from yourself. It teaches your mind to prioritize another's comfort above your own, to silence needs that once seemed urgent, and to forget the shape of your own boundaries. The mask also creates a contrast, a quiet dissonance between what others perceive and what you feel internally. People see your composure. They don't see the anxiety, self-doubt, or longing simmering underneath. They see your patience. They don't see the exhaustion that comes from constantly moderating your words, your tone, your reactions. And this contrast can make you feel invisible, misunderstood, or lonely, even when surrounded by others. The mask allows you to survive relationships externally while hiding the internal truth. That part of you longs for freedom, recognition, and emotional safety. And here is the paradox. The mask was useful once. It allowed you to navigate instability, avoid harm, and protect your heart. But it is no longer necessary in the same way. The survival strategy that once saved you can now trap you, repeating patterns that no longer serve your growth. You may wonder why the same type of person or dynamic keeps reappearing, or why the same anxieties flare up in every relationship. The mask, though protective, has become a lens, filtering your experience and shaping the way you interact with love, trust, and intimacy. Understanding your survival mechanism is not about guilt. It's about recognition. It's about seeing that the very part of you designed to survive can also be your path toward awareness. By gently noticing the mask, acknowledging the protective intention behind it, and reflecting on how it shows up today, you begin to reclaim the parts of yourself it has hidden. You start the delicate process of separating survival from authenticity, learning that you can exist fully, speak openly, and maintain safety without losing yourself to patterns forged long ago. The mask is not your enemy. It's a signpost pointing toward what your heart needs to heal. Even long after childhood, the echoes of toxic patterns follow you into your adult life, often disguised in ways that feel normal at first. You might notice it in a lingering unease when someone is late with a text, in the tension that rises when someone disagrees with you, or in the knot that forms in your stomach when a conversation starts to feel unpredictable. These subtle signals are your inner mind recognizing patterns it learned long ago. They're reminders that your emotional radar is still finely tuned to protect you, even when the danger isn't what it once was. Toxic relationships manifest in small, almost invisible ways. You might find yourself constantly justifying another person's behavior. They're just stressed, or they didn't mean it, while quietly questioning your own feelings. You might overextend yourself, giving more than you receive, hoping that effort will restore balance. Or perhaps you stay silent when something bothers you, worried that speaking up will trigger conflict or rejection. These patterns create an emotional cycle that can leave you drained, anxious, or even questioning your own reality. You may ask yourself, why do I feel like I'm walking on eggshells? Why do I keep giving so much without receiving the same care? Why does love feel like a test I can never pass? Triggers often appear unexpectedly, surfacing old wounds in the middle of ordinary moments. A sharp tone from a partner can feel like a storm, reviving memories of being blamed or dismissed. A friend's criticism can spiral into self-doubt, echoing childhood messages that your feelings aren't valid. Even success, independence, or personal boundaries can provoke guilt, as if asserting yourself threatens the fragile balance of connection. These emotional reactions may feel disproportionate, leaving you frustrated, confused, or ashamed, but they are deeply human responses, shaped by patterns meant to keep you safe in the past. Recognizing these patterns can be unsettling, yet awareness is the first step toward freedom. Pause and ask yourself, which reactions are truly about the present moment and which are echoes of what you learned to survive? Which relationships drain your energy and which nourish it? Which behaviors feel automatic, almost compulsive, and which are chosen consciously? These reflections are not judgments. They are invitations to understand yourself with compassion. Your reactions are signposts, not flaws, guiding you toward the areas that need care and attention. The emotional impact of toxic relationships is cumulative. Over time, the constant tension, unpredictability, and self-monitoring can create anxiety, self-doubt, and emotional exhaustion. You may notice patterns repeating in different relationships, almost as if you're reliving old lessons. It's easy to internalize blame, thinking something is wrong with you. But the reality is different. These experiences highlight how deeply adaptive, sensitive, and empathetic you are. Your mind and heart learn to protect themselves, to read signals, and to care in a world that sometimes felt unsafe. This same sensitivity can be harnessed for healing, understanding, and building relationships that honor you rather than diminish you. Even though toxic patterns have shaped your heart and mind, they are not permanent chains. Healing is possible, and it begins with small, deliberate steps that honor the person you are beneath the mask. Imagine your inner self as a garden that has been crowded with weeds. The weeds, the habits, fears, and old survival strategies, once protected you, but now they prevent your growth. Healing is not about blaming yourself or erasing the past. It's about carefully tending the soil, creating space for your authentic self to flourish. The first step is gentle awareness. Notice when old patterns surface, the over-apologizing, the self-doubt, the habit of shrinking yourself for someone else's comfort. Instead of criticizing these reactions, treat them like signals from a loyal but outdated guide. Ask yourself, what is this pattern trying to protect? What old fear is being triggered? By understanding the protective intention behind your behavior, you create compassion for yourself, which is the foundation for real change. Next comes reparenting, learning to meet your own needs in ways you might not have experienced as a child. This doesn't mean isolation or selfishness. It means recognizing that your feelings matter, your boundaries matter, and your heart deserves care. You might start with small practices, telling yourself the truth about what you want, setting a boundary with a friend, or spending time doing something that nourishes your soul without apology. Each act of self-respect rewires the emotional pathways that once demanded compromise and silence. Healing also involves choice. You cannot control others, but you can choose how to engage with relationships. Notice which connections energize you, which leave you depleted, and which reflect the patterns you've been carrying. It is okay to step back, slow down, or even remove yourself from relationships that trigger old wounds. Choosing safety and emotional alignment is not rejection of others. It is an affirmation of your value and growth. Reflection and self-compassion are powerful tools. Journaling, meditation, or quiet reflection can help you trace patterns without judgment. Ask yourself, when did I last feel fully seen? When did I act from choice rather than fear? Which relationships honor my heart and which demand compromise that no longer serves me? These questions guide your inner compass, helping you differentiate between old survival habits and the truth of what you truly need. Finally, remember that healing is gradual. There will be days when old patterns resurface, and that's normal. The key is persistence and patience. Each time you recognize a pattern and respond with awareness rather than automatic reaction, you strengthen the part of you that is authentic, resilient, and capable of sustaining healthy, nourishing relationships. Healing is not linear. It is a dance of patience, self-compassion, and gentle courage. You have the power to create a new story for yourself. By tending your inner garden, honoring your boundaries, and practicing self-compassion, you gradually replace the weight of old patterns with clarity, strength, and emotional freedom. The heart that once bent itself to survive now learns to thrive. The mind that once predicted storms now recognizes calm. And in this process, you discover that the person you've been waiting for, understanding, accepting, and protecting your own heart, has always been within you, ready to guide you toward love that heals rather than diminishes. Take a deep breath and let this sink in. You have endured, adapted, and survived patterns that were never truly yours to carry. And yet, here you are, still searching, still learning, still capable of love and understanding. The weight of past relationships, the echoes of old fears, and the habits formed to protect you, they do not define your worth. They are lessons etched into your heart, markers of resilience, and evidence of the strength you have carried quietly all along. Imagine your life as a river. The water has flowed around rocks, through narrow channels, and sometimes over rough terrain. The river has been shaped by every obstacle, every sudden drop, every hidden current. But the river also keeps moving, carving new paths, deepening its course, and creating pools of calm and clarity. Your heart is like that river. The patterns, the pain, the confusion, they are the rocks and currents, not the river itself. The river continues, learning new routes, creating space for reflection, and finding its way toward open, sunlit shores. As you reflect on your experiences, remember this: every moment of self-awareness is a spark of liberation. Recognizing patterns of toxicity, numbing your needs, and setting boundaries are not acts of weakness. They are declarations of your strength. They are affirmations that your emotional life matters, that your feelings are valid, and that your presence in any relationship should be celebrated rather than tolerated. You are worthy of love that uplifts, connection that nourishes, and relationships that honor the fullness of who you are. Picture the life that emerges when you release what no longer serves you. Feel the lightness that comes when you stop bending yourself into shapes that others demand. Imagine conversations where your voice is heard without fear, moments where you trust your instincts, and spaces where your heart feels safe simply being itself. Healing is not about perfection. It is about reclaiming the quiet power that has always existed within you, the power to choose, the power to care, and the power to grow beyond patterns that once controlled your emotions. And know this: growth is a journey, not a destination. There will be days when old habits try to pull you back, when the fear of loss whispers louder than self-trust. On those days, remember the river, the spark, the riverbed reshaping itself. You are learning to flow with awareness, not against yourself. You are learning to meet each moment with presence and compassion, to honor your needs, and to respond rather than react. Each small act of self-respect, each boundary upheld, each truth spoken, is a victory, a step closer to freedom, peace, and authentic connection. So carry this truth with you. You are capable of love that doesn't diminish you, of relationships that nourish your heart, and of a life where your inner self is honored, not hidden. The journey through toxic patterns has taught you lessons in resilience, empathy, and insight, and those lessons now become tools for conscious choice. Your heart is not broken, it is awakening. Your mind is not lost, it is learning direction. And your spirit is not defeated. It is reclaiming space to be fully, beautifully, and unapologetically you. You are not just surviving anymore. You are learning to thrive, and that is where true freedom begins.